We got a question from a diver regarding melanoma and pulmonary lobectomy. To find out what impact that may have on diving, keep watching. So the question we had was from a diver saying they had been diagnosed with so-called stage 4 melanoma with a metastasis in the lung, and that area of the lung or lobe of the lung being removed, and their pulmonologist and cardiologist saying that they would be safe to dive in the midst of having immunotherapy and having had the thoracic surgery. Now, the question was from the diver very wisely whether it was appropriate to dive. And as always, one needs to look at a variety of considerations. First of all, the melanoma is a skin malignancy related to the pigmented cells, and they can occur or can spread from any part of the skin. And the stage 4 means they have metastasized. In other words, they have moved beyond the skin, the immediate areas of the skin, the lymph glands around that area, and ultimately into a distant organ. So it's very likely that not only the lung is affected, but that so-called seeding that we refer to may affect other organs as well. And the one that we're typically most concerned about is the brain. And it's very, very unpredictable. Now, most of the literature on melanoma and its effects or impact on safety have been studied in aviation. And in aviation, there is an extremely rigorous protocol because of the concern of brain metastases and sudden incapacitation. In addition, the diver has mentioned that they are on immunotherapy, which means that their immune system has been essentially charged to address or attack the melanoma. This has variable success, and therefore in and of itself cannot necessarily give us an idea of whether or not the melanoma will be kept at bay. So that's the one aspect, the melanoma. Then in addition to that, there's now the pulmonary surgery, the removal of one lobe of the lung, which is usually filled by the other lobes, although it results in a mild emphysema. In other words, the lungs are stretched in order to fill up that space. And there has been intrathoracic scarring, all of which may predispose that lung to overpressure injury. So we have two variables here. We have the consideration of the melanoma, which may spread unknowingly, and certainly unless it is specifically evaluated rigorously, usually by CT scans required annually in the case of aviators, at least for a first period of time. And secondly, we have the pulmonary considerations with scarring and the potential for overpressure injuries. We have the potential for overpressure injuries of the lung. Taken together, we would generally say that diving is not appropriate with these overlying or underlying concerns, simply because they cannot be quantified. It is impossible to predict with certainty the possibility of spread to organs that would result in sudden incapacitation, such as the brain, and it is impossible to determine whether the lungs are compromised to the point where the person may be more vulnerable to an arterial gas embolism as a result of pulmonary overpressurization. So my recommendation would be not to do compressed gas diving, and if you decide to continue with snorkeling, to make very, very sure that you're always with a buddy, and to make sure also at regular intervals that you are examined for any potential spread of the melanoma. I hope that's given you at least some hope of being able to remain in the water, but to do so under very, very cautious and well-supervised conditions, and also benign diving conditions. Thank you for the question, and all of the best. We appreciate you asking and being concerned about your fitness to dive. It is divers like you and the responsibility in knowing your fitness, which is really something that is very enheartening to us, because what is important is social responsibility. where we do not only look at the safety of ourselves, but the impact of our own health on the divers we dive with. And that is critical. And thank you for that. So for the rest of you watching, until next time, safe diving.